All right, welcome back. We're going to have a bit of a video here about resizing a photo. When we take photos with our cameras and our cell phones these days, they end up being very large, very oversized for what we need them for the web. So very often we want to be able to resize photos down to dimensions that we want to use that take up a whole lot less bandwidth and are the correct size. The cardinal rule of making a web page is resize the photos to the size you want to use them in. That means you will often take one photo and have it resized about 4 or 5 different ways in case you're trying to reuse it. So each time the photo is resized to what you want. So step 1, find a photo. And so let's do that. I just happen to have a photo right here on the desktop of my daughters. Okay, so they're goobers, they're adorable, they're shopping for glasses. But if we look at the properties of this photo, we will notice that this is a 3 megabyte file. And not only that, if we look at the details here, that this is basically 3,000 pixels by 4,000 pixels. Way oversized, way overkill for what we need on the internet. So the first thing I want to do is we want to resize this photo to an 825 by 540 photo. Remember that iPhones have retina displays, which means they sort of double up on the pixels. So we really want to resize this photo to a 1650 by 1080. But right now, the photo is open in Microsoft Photo, which is really good. It has a lot of techniques. If you look here, there's a lot of things I can do. I can mark it up, I can print it, I can resize it, I can edit it. But for right now, let's just resize this photo. It gives me a bunch of options. What is my best options? That's fine, but I'm going to go with the custom options. So again, we want this as an 825 photo. So I'm going to say 825, but I want an 825 by 540. You will notice that if I maintain the aspect ratio of this photo, which by the way is a 4:3 photo, I can't get that 540. Well, all right, fine. I'm going to keep the 80% quality here. Let's turn that off. Let's go to make this a 540 photo. Cool. So now I'm resizing the height to something smaller, and I'm squishing it in a bit. And I'm going to save the resized copy. Now, when you save copies of the photo, it's quite often that you're going to have multiple copies of the same photo in different sizes. So we need to give this a meaningful name. And since these daughters are goobers, I'm going to call them goobers. And then I'm going to put in, there's lots of ways to do this, but I'm going to put in the dimensions I'm saving this as, an 825 by 540 photo. So that way when I go looking for this photo to add to my web page, I know what the photo is, and I also know which size it is. So I'm going to hit save. And let's see what we did. So here is that goober photo right here that we make. Let's see if we did any improvement. So here's the new one. That's 95 kilobytes. That sounds like an improvement. Compare it to the old one. The old one right here is a 3 megabyte photo. 3 megabytes, that's 3,000 kilobytes. So we went from 3,000 kilobytes to 100 kilobytes. And that, my math is right, that is that's a 30 times smaller file. I think we succeed in our efforts to make this smaller. Let's go ahead and take a look at it real quick and see what it looks like. And a clever eye will notice something. The photo has been squished. Why has it been squished? Because we resized it, but we didn't resize it keeping the aspect ratio. This is a good technique you want to do if you want to make people look skinnier. So keep that in mind, but that's not what I want. I want to maintain the same aspect ratio. I can go back in, again, Microsoft Photo. I can go back in the original photo and click Edit. And it does have a crop here. And so I can say, keep with the original aspect ratio and crop in on this, or I can make a custom aspect ratio and crop in. But the problem is I have no clue what I'm doing. And I'm trying to aim for that 650 by 1080. You go like 650 by 1080, where do I get that from? I mean, 1650 by 1080. Well, remember that we're doubling the number of pixels to account for Apple's Retina display. So I am going to display this as 825 by 540 photo, but I am going to save the photo as twice as big because of that. So let's see if there's any other tools in our arsenal that we can use. There actually are a ton of tools out there. but is there anything that just comes on default on the Windows computers? So I'm going to right click on this. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open up Paint. Good old standby Paint. There's a lot you can do with this. And I'm going to go File, Open, and I'm going to open up the original, because we always edit from the original photo. And whoa, boy, is that big. But you notice down here at the bottom, it tells me the size in this. So what can I do here? A couple of steps. Again, are there better tools out there on the internet? Yes. But I want to resize it down and then get it to the right, get rid or crop extra information. We'll talk about cropping in another video, but if I go to resize, go to pixels, again, the vertical height, I know I want that to be 1650, so I'm going to type in 1650. Notice the horizontal is not 1650, so I hit OK, and we're good. So now I have a much smaller photo. But again, it's too wide. Well, there's a bunch of extra information here on the side I can get rid of. So if I'm watching this number down here on the left, I can start cropping in, and I can go to 1060. Now I want you to notice I went too far. And if I go back, this is a lossless process, so I lost information. But that's okay. I can hit Control Z and try again. So I'm going to try this again. I want to get down to 1080. So being very careful. Boom. I've now have a 1650 by 1080 photo. Cool. I do not want to hit save because I do not want to get rid of my original image. So I'm going to do File, Save As, Goobers, and I'm going to give this a meaningful name. I'm going to call this 1650 by 1080. And then we're going to save it as a JPEG. Okay. Boom. Saved as a JPEG. Here we have it over here. Close this down. Well, actually, let's compare this one right here. So this is the new one to the original. So unless we zoom in really well, right? Unless we zoom in really well, you can see, let me get at the right zoom level. You can see the one on the right is slightly worse image quality than the one on the left. You can see that we have a better image quality on the left and the right. We did lose information. The file did become smaller. I mean, we can get even more extreme in this. If I go back to this one and I zoom in over here, we can really start to see artifacts and bad compression algorithms starting to show up, and that's typical of JPEGs. But if you squint your eye and look at it from a distance, you're not going to see that. Well, how did we do in size comparison? So here's the original. Here's the one. This is the smallest one, so this is going to be the smallest size. And if everything's right, this guy should be in the middle. So go to File, Properties. That one is a 3 megabyte one, too big. The middle one, 665 kilobytes. Not as small as this one, but still 10 times smaller, which is good. We're working on things here. Could I have done things to reduce image quality? Absolutely. And get an even smaller file if performance is that much of an issue? Yes, I can. So hopefully that is informative. How much care you take here depends on how much you care, which you should. But the main detail is please resize your photos. Normally, you would just resize with the same aspect ratio, or you would make a crop of the original image and then resize. Those are normally how you would do it. If the design requirement says the photo absolutely has to be this size, you might want to go use better tools. But you should always resize your photos. Hopefully you found this informative, and hopefully you will do well on your next assignment.